In the world of investing, there's a hidden tripwire, a little-known rule that can turn a really smart tax-saving strategy into a costly mistake. So today we are diving deep into the wash sale rule to make sure you never, ever fall into that trap.
Welcome to Value Vest Daily, where we analyze the best value and momentum investment opportunities.
So, let me ask you a question. How do you turn those inevitable investment losses into actual, real tax savings? You know, it's one of the most powerful tools an investor has to lower their tax bill. But believe me, it is not as simple as it sounds.
And there is a fantastic strategy to do just that. It's called tax loss harvesting. But, and this is a big but, there's a catch, a hidden tripwire from the IRS that can completely wipe out those savings and potentially cost you thousands of dollars if you don't see it coming.
This really brings us to the promise and the peril of this whole strategy. So first, let's break down the good part, the promise. What exactly is tax loss harvesting?
Well, the idea is pretty simple. In a regular taxable account, not your IRA or 401k, you sell an investment that's gone down in value. That loss can then be used to cancel out capital gains you might have, dollar for dollar. And get this, if your losses are bigger than your gains, you can even use up to $3,000 of that loss to lower your regular income. And any leftover loss, it just rolls over to the next year and the next and the next indefinitely. It is a huge tax benefit.
But here's the peril. To get that amazing benefit, you have to navigate the single biggest obstacle in your way, the wash sale rule. This is what we're going to call the 61-day trap.
So what is it? Okay, according to the IRS code itself, Section 1091, you're not allowed to claim that tax loss if you sell a security and then, within a specific window, you buy a substantially identical one. The IRS is basically saying, hey, you didn't really get rid of your position, you just kind of shuffle the deck to create a tax loss, and sorry, that's not allowed.
And that specific window is the number you have to burn into your brain, 61 days. It's not just 30 days after you sell. No, it's 30 days before the sale, the day of the sale itself, and then 30 days after the sale. Any purchase of something substantially identical inside this 61-day danger zone will trigger the rule and poof, your loss is disallowed.
Now, the two words that trip everybody up are substantially identical. So what does that actually mean? Well, let's look at some examples. Two S&P 500 ETFs like VOO and SPY, they track the exact same index. That's a trap, absolutely identical. But two total stock market ETFs from different companies like VTI and ITOT, they track slightly different indexes, so that's usually safe. The key insight here is that you can sell a fund to get a loss and immediately buy a similar one to stay invested as long as it's not basically a carbon copy.
Okay, theory is one thing. Let's see how this actually plays out in the real world. We're going to walk through some of the most common traps that even really smart investors fall into, starting with, honestly, the most painful one.
Please pay close attention here. This is the IRA trap. Let's say in your regular brokerage account, you sell Microsoft stock for a $7,000 loss. You think, great, I've got a nice deduction. But then, just 2 weeks later, inside your Roth IRA, you buy back those Microsoft shares because you still believe in the company long-term. So what happens? Well, the wash sale rule gets triggered across all your accounts. That $7,000 loss is disallowed. And because the new shares are in a tax-free Roth, where cost basis doesn't matter, that $7,000 tax deduction is just gone. Poof, permanently. You can never get it back.
All right, let's look at another tricky one, the partial wash sale. Let's imagine you own 200 shares of a stock. You decide to sell 100 of them to realize a $2,000 loss. But then, inside that 61-day window, you get a little antsy and decide to buy back just 50 of those shares. So, what do you think happens to your $2,000 loss now? Well, the rule actually works proportionally. Since you bought back half the number of shares you sold, 50 instead of 100, half of your loss is disallowed. So you can still claim a $1,000 loss this year. The other $1,000 isn't gone forever like in the IRA trap. Instead, it gets added to the purchase price, or the cost basis, of the new shares you just bought. This just means you'll pay a little less in taxes when you eventually sell those.
Okay, so now that we know the traps to avoid, let's get into the pro-level strategy that gives you maximum control. This is all about moving from just reacting to your losses to proactively optimizing your taxes. It all comes down to using something called specific share identification. So imagine this is your portfolio.
You've been buying an ETF called VTI over time, so you own different lots of shares that you bought at different prices. Lot A has a big gain, but lots B and C have losses. Let's say the current price is $240 a share. If you just hit the sell button, your broker might use a default method like first in, first out, which would automatically sell your profitable Lot A shares first. That is the exact opposite of what you want to do.
But with specific share ID, you can pinpoint exactly which shares you want to sell. You can literally log into your brokerage account and tell them, sell only the 300 shares from Lot B. By targeting your shares with the highest cost basis, you maximize your harvested loss, generating a full $9,000 tax deduction in this example, all while holding on to your other shares. This is the kind of precision that makes for a truly effective tax strategy.
Mastering specific lots gives you surgical precision with stocks and ETFs. But what about derivatives? It's time to tackle the final boss, the hidden options trap. And this is where even very, very experienced traders can get into a lot of trouble, because the rules here are just not that intuitive.
Okay, so you just sold a stock for a loss. You're thinking, all right, I'll wait my 31 days to buy the stock back. But in the meantime, I'll just buy a call option to keep my exposure to any upside. I'm not buying the stock, so I should be totally safe, right? Wrong.
The IRS is way ahead of you on this one. Let's break it down. Buying a deep in-the-money call option right after selling the stock, that's a very high risk of a wash sale. The IRS sees it as pretty much the same thing as owning the stock. What about selling a cash-secured put? Also very high risk, because it's a contract that could force you to buy the stock. So what's actually safe? Well, a long-dated call, a leap with more than 9 months left until expiration, is generally considered safe because it has significant time value and isn't just a direct stock replacement.
And here's why this is the case. The IRS code explicitly applies the rule to contracts or options to acquire or sell securities. A call option is literally a contract to acquire the stock. So if that option behaves almost exactly like the stock, like a deep in-the-money call does, the IRS is going to treat it as substantially identical. This isn't just our opinion. It's backed up by actual IRS rulings.
Phew! Okay, we have been through a lot. We've covered the good, the bad, and the really ugly parts of this rule. So now, let's bring it all home. Let's put it together into a clear, actionable plan you can use to harvest your losses safely and effectively.
Here is your 5-step playbook. 1. Use specific share ID to target your highest cost shares. 2. Sell them. 3. If you want to stay in the market, immediately buy a similar but not identical ETF. Sell your S&P 500 fund, buy a total stock market fund. You get the idea. 4. Put a reminder on your calendar and wait at least 31 days before you even think about buying back the original thing you sold. And 5, this is a huge one people forget, temporarily turn off automatic dividend reinvestments for that security. A tiny dividend buying a fraction of a share can trigger a wash sale on your entire massive transaction. Follow these 5 steps, and you'll be in great shape.
And of course, the obligatory disclaimer, this is all for educational purposes. It is not financial or tax advice. The tax code is incredibly complex, so please consult a qualified professional for advice that is tailored to your specific situation.
Please subscribe, like, and share Value S Daily for daily learning opportunities before you put your money to work. And hey, please put in a comment if you want us to deep dive into any specific high-risk or high-reward opportunities you're interested in. Thanks for watching.